Are you serious? Are you serious? I'm very serious, and this is a very serious situation, of course. As my good friend Yehudah Glick here, right here, another assassination attempt, another assassination plot against him, along with Ben. There he is, Ben Gvir. Yes, Ben Gvir, who is the very important figure there right now in Israel. He is the right now he's the defense minister of interior defense minister in Israel. Okay, so again, both of these very prominent. Yeah, he is the Israeli Minister of National Security, is his official title. The Israeli Minister of National Security, Itmar Ben Gvir. Let me tell you all about what's happening. Both these gentlemen were targeted to be assassinated by the Iranians, and this is how serious it is when you start talking peace in the Middle East. When you start talking Third Temple, these are the kinds of things that they have to deal with. It's just unbelievable. I'm gonna put a shout out right now for noblegoldinvestment.com. Actually, go to that new link they gave me, www.pastorpaulgold.com. That's www.pastorpaulgold.com. Hey, are you feeling unsure about your finances these days? You're not alone. That's why Noble Gold Investment, with a brand new link, www.pastorpaulgold.com. This is why they're here, to help. And let me just tell you straight from some of the people they have. One guy said, the Noble Gold crew walked me through everything with no stress. I like that. And another one said, with Noble Gold's help, I can finally sleep easy at night. Yeah, because it's not as hard to make that. You can roll over that 401k. You can set up a gold or silver IRA. And matter of fact, this month at www.pastorpaulgold.com, Noble Gold Investment is handing out a free 5 ounces of pure silver, America the Beautiful coin, and it's yours for free. If you qualify and set up a gold or silver IRA, they will literally send this to you. Guys, you can pick up the phone and call them right now at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. And look, tell them that Pastor Paul sent you. That's over at www.pastorpaulgold.com. You'll be glad you did, okay? Now, let me just say, there's a lot going on right now, a lot going on. And of course, we just celebrated Yom Kippur. And some of you are still, I know people are calling this morning. People are still calling saying, can I still give a Day of Atonement offering, a special offering for Yom Kippur? And of course you can, and you should include a special prayer request with you, because the next time I go to Israel, I'm going to take all these prayer requests that have come in with me. And there's a ton of them that have come in. Me and Heidi were talking about, we're going to have to split them in half, and half of them in her suitcase and half of them in mine, just to get them in and get them in the country. And last time I was in Israel, Yehudah Glick right here, I met with him 3 times. I interviewed him at the Crown. What was it? The Dan Hotel, one of the Dan hotels there in Jerusalem. And I interviewed him for 2 television shows. He also came and one night and spoke and gave a tremendous speech to our entire 57 people that were with us on the tour. Everybody loved him. He was on fire and preaching peace, really peace, and the love for Jerusalem and the love for the Lord. And so that was a great night. And then Heidi and I and Israel and Kristen, we went to his wife's charity, where they take care of orphan children and families. And we went there and visited them there and seen the facility and saw the work they're doing is phenomenal. So I can tell you, he's a wonderful man. He loves the Lord and he loves the nation of Israel. And of course, he wants to see the Third Temple built. No question about that. And he believes that's God's call on his life. And I'll tell you, I believe it is too. And while he is, I'm talking about my good friendship with him, ever since he was shot back in October the 29th, 2014, and then he and I met then in the spring of 2015. We have been friends for life, and a lot of prophecy we've talked about together, and a lot of things we've seen come to pass. Now, the other gentleman here, the defense minister, I have never met him. I've never met him. Hope to. Another man who's working hard for security there in Israel, but he also went up on the Temple Mount on Passover and blew a shofar. And Glick did as well. Glick did it on Pentecost. They went up on the Temple Mount and blew shofars. So, and then Glick did it again at the Feast of Trumpets. Okay. So both these guys want to see the third temple. Well, the Iranians wanted to assassinate them, and they made a plot to do it. Matter of fact, Israel's security agencies stopped it. The Iranian plot was to assassinate Ben Gvir and Yehudah Glick. According to the report recently authorized for publication by Israel's Shin Bet security agency, they exposed this terror cell operating in the West Bank under the guidance and instruction of the Iranian security officials. This terror cell was planning to carry out a terror attack against the Israeli interests within the state of Israel. During Shin Bet's investigation, Shin Bet is sort of like the FBI of Israel. During Shin Bet's investigation into the terror cell, 5 suspects were detained for questioning, including 3 Palestinians and two Israeli Arabs. Hamad Hamadi from Nazareth, also Yosef Hamad, also from the northern region of Israel. 2 other Palestinian suspects, Murad Kamamara and Hassan Murjermira, were also reportedly responsible for recruiting these Israeli Arab suspects and for coordinating plans with the Jordanians contacts who were working for the Iranian security forces. Now, why would the Jordanians work with the Iranians to try to assassinate 2 prominent Israeli leaders? Could it be because Saudi Arabia right now has just sent a delegation to Israel to meet with the Palestinian leaders, Mahmoud Abbas and some of the others, about a peace arrangement between Israel and Saudi Arabia? And could it also be that Israel sent a delegation to Saudi Arabia and they're working on this peace arrangement between Israel and Saudi Arabia? A source for Shin Bet said the interrogation by the Shin Bet agency revealed that Murad and Hassan acted under the direction and guidance of the officials living in Jordan, who acted on behalf of the Iranians. The 2 were asked to help smuggle weapons into Israel and then collect intelligence about where the security of these 2 senior public officials, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and former Knesset member Rabbi Yehudah Glick. They wanted to know where they were at, so they were smuggling in weapons to kill them. But this was spoiled by good work by the Shin Bet, and certainly by the help of the Lord. So I haven't talked to my good friend Yehudah about this since this has happened. It just came out yesterday that it happened. I'm going to, and I hope to do a live interview with him just to get more perspective on it. But let me give you some perspective of this whole thing. You see, Saudi Arabia wants to not only have a peace arrangement with Israel, but they want to be in control of the Temple Mount, which right now currently is controlled by Jordan. Jordan doesn't want to give up that position. Remember, King Hussein II, his grandfather, was assassinated on the Temple Mount in the threshold of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in 1951. So Jordan, the Hashmonite kingdom of Jordan, they believed they deserved to be in charge of the Temple Mount. But of course, Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince of Saudi Arabia, believes that the Saudi kingdom should be in charge of the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, since Saudi Arabia is in charge of Mecca and Saudi Arabia is in charge of Medina, which is, of course, the burial of the Prophet Muhammad. So Saudi Arabia figures they should be in charge also of the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, so because basically Saudi Arabia believes that their brand of Islam is correct and not the Iranians, who are Shiites, because you see this, the Saudi Arabians are Sunni Muslims and the Iranians are Shiite Muslims. And the Shiite Muslims don't believe that the Sunnis should be running Islam. So there you see. And then Jordan, they don't want to give up their position, but Saudi Arabia wants to pay Jordan billions of dollars to help their economy and to allow them to have control of the Temple Mount. All of this is being worked on. Israel, of course, wants peace with everybody and the right to build the third temple. And so this is what you see developing. I put something together, doing some research on it this morning. And here's what I've come up with here was, it's a complex history, really, of assassination attempts and the quest for the third temple on the Temple Mount in the turbulent landscape of Middle Eastern geopolitics. Religious beliefs often intertwine with political aspirations, leading to a complex and often dangerous consequences. The history of assassination attempts and planned targeting former Knesset member Rabbi Yehudah Glick and Israeli Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir is one such story. These individuals have been at the forefront of advocating for the construction of the third temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. It's a dream rooted in religious prophecy and deeply connected to the history of the region. The Temple Mount, known as the Haram al-Sharif to Muslims, is one of the most contentious and spiritually significant locations in the world. Look, if you explore the history of assassination attempts and plans against Rabbi Yehudah Glick and Itamar Ben-Gvir, it will highlight the complex motivations behind these acts involving Palestinians, Jordanians, and Iranians. Additionally, let's take a look at how the desire for the third temple connects with biblical prophecies found in the King James Version of the Bible. So specifically, if you look at Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 and 3, Isaiah 14, verses 1 and 2, and Zechariah 14, verse 16. Now, the third temple, why is this significant? Well, the idea of constructing a third temple on the Temple Mount has deep religious and historical roots in Judaism. And according to Jewish tradition, the first and second temples stood on this sacred ground, making it the holiest site in Judaism. The destruction of the second temple by the Romans in 70 AD led to the Jewish diaspora, and the longing for the restoration of the temple became a central theme in Jewish religious and cultural life. Now, biblical passages, as I said, Isaiah chapter 2 and Isaiah 14 and Zechariah 14, that's just to name a few, there's a whole lot more, have been interpreted by some as prophesying the rebuilding of the temple in the last days. Now, these verses speak of Jerusalem being exalted, nations streaming to the mountain of the Lord, and offerings being brought to the house of God. For many believers, these passages serve as spiritual and ideological foundations for the quest to rebuild the third temple, not only among Jews, but among Christians as well. Rabbi Yehudah Glick has been a prominent advocate for Jewish prayer and peace and access to the Temple Mount. His efforts, however, have stirred up some controversy and led to multiple assassination attempts on his life. In 2014, Glick was shot 4 times, seriously wounded point blank by a Palestinian assailant who opposed the Jewish presence on the Temple Mount. Miraculously, though, Glick survived the attack and continues his mission. Glick's unwavering commitment to his cause has made him a polarizing figure. While some see him as a symbol of Jewish resilience and religious freedom, others view him as a provocative figure whose actions exasperate tensions in the region. And then there's Itamar ben Gvir, a voice for the far right. You see, Itamar ben Gvir, a far-right Israeli politician and lawyer, has also faced threats and security concerns due to his advocacy for Jewish rights on the Temple Mount. Ben Gvir's political platform is built on a staunch nationalist agenda. He has been a vocal supporter of a settler movement in the West Bank. His associations with the Temple Mount cause has also led to suspicions and hostility from various groups, especially those who view his ideology as a threat to the status quo in the region. And Ben Gvir's presence in the Israeli government has further inflamed those tensions and garnered him enemies who see his actions as detrimental to the peace efforts, mainly from the Islamic faith. And then there's the Palestinian perspective on all of this. You see, the Palestinian perspective would be this. The quest to rebuild the third temple on the Temple Mount represents, a direct threat to their historical and religious claims to the site. For Palestinians, the area is not only home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but also a symbol of their national identity and aspirations for statehood, a Palestinian state. The belief that Jewish efforts to construct the third temple will lead to the destruction of the Islamic holy site fuels resentment and anger among Palestinians. This sentiment has and at times manifested in violence, including assassination attempts and protests against figures like Glick and Ben Gvir. And what is the role of Jordan? I mean, Jordan, as the custodian of this Islamic holy site in Jerusalem, plays a significant role in the Temple Mount dispute. You see, 1994, Jordan-Israel peace treaty, part of the Abraham Accords, the second nation to sign, recognized Jordan's special role in overseeing the holy places, including Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. Jordan has consistently expressed concern over Israeli actions and policies in East Jerusalem, particularly regarding access to the Temple Mount. Any perceived threats to the status quo have the potential to strain Jordan-Israeli relations and have implications for regional stability. And then why is the Iranians involved? Well, the Iranian government has not been directly linked to the assassination attempts against Glick and Ben Gvir until yesterday, but still Iran's geopolitical ambitions in the region and its support for various proxy groups contribute to the overall volatility of the Temple Mount issue. Absolutely. Iran, as a Shia majority state, has different motivations than the Sunni majority countries like Saudi Arabia regarding the Temple Mount. Nothing less. This Iranian apocalyptic view of the end times, it has used the Palestinian cause, including the Temple Mount dispute, to gain influence in the region and to advance its anti-Israel agenda. So what do we take away from all of this? Well, the history of assassination attempts and plans targeting figures like Rabbi Yehudah Glick and Itamar ben Gvir underscores the deep-seated passions, the complexities, the surrounding the Temple Mount issue. This contentious matter intertwines with religious beliefs and historical narratives and political aspirations, causes a struggle for the regional power. The desire to rebuild the third temple on the Temple Mount is rooted in biblical prophecies. It's a driving force for some in the region, yet it also serves as a flashpoint for violence and conflict. The challenge lies in finding a way to address the spiritual and national aspirations of all people in the region while maintaining peace and stability in this historically and religiously significant location. The region continues to grapple with the legacy of this ancient site and the visions of its future. The world watches closely, hoping for a peaceful resolution to the location where Abraham offered his son Isaac, where Solomon built the first temple, where the Ark of the Covenant sat in the Holy of Holies, and God visited a location that was then torn down by the Babylonians in 586 BC, rebuilt later by King Herod. Jesus taught in the temple, healing the sick and raising the aspirations of the world there in Jerusalem. And then the Roman Empire, destroying it in 70 AD and scattering the Jews all over the world. Not until the Holocaust by Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Germans did the world see the need to allow the Jews to return to their homeland. And 75 years later, they are longing once again to see the temple of the Lord standing on this sacred ground. Now, what does the Bible say about it? So I'm going to read these three verses real quick. The Bible says, if you go to Isaiah, I'll go there first, chapter 2. Listen to this. It's unbelievable. 2 verses, but it is incredible. And this will help you understand the significance of the temple. The Bible says, and the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, I'm in Isaiah chapter 2, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days, when? In the last days, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. You cannot dismiss these 3 verses I just read in Isaiah chapter 2, 1, 2, and 3. It said it's going to happen in the last days, that people will flow in from every nation into Jerusalem, to the temple, to the house of the God of Jacob, to worship and hear the word of the Lord. That is plain. Now, Isaiah chapter 14 says this, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, which God has done. And strangers shall be joined with them. That would be the Gentiles and the Christians. And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So it's not just the Jews. It's not just the Jews that are there, but strangers, which would be Christians, would also come and cling to the house of the Lord. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaidens. And they shall take them captives, who were captives they were, and shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. So the Lord will restore the house of Jacob, and even strangers will cling to it. Now, if you go to Zechariah, listen to what the Lord will do in the last days. First of all, Israel gets attacked. Zechariah 12 says Jerusalem becomes this cup of trembling, a burdensome stone for all people. Then it says that Israel gets attacked. But God Jesus Christ appears. Listen to this. In Zechariah 14, verse 1, behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half the mountain shall be removed from the north, and half of it toward the south. Because there's going to be this great earthquake, as it says in verse 5. Never before. They will flee like they did in the earthquake of the days of Uzziah, the king of Judah. And then it says that living waters, in verse 8, and it shall be in that day that the living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, half of it toward the hinder sea, and the summer and the winter shall it be. So it's going to be a massive earthquake. It splits the Mount of Olives in half, and water flows out of Jerusalem toward the Mediterranean and toward the Dead Sea. And it actually heals a lot of the waters, a lot of the wilderness out there in the desert. And then this happens in verse 16. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And we're getting ready to come into the Feast of Tabernacles on this Friday night. As the sun sets on Friday night, tomorrow night, we'll go into the 7 days of the last feast of this calendar year that we're in, not the calendar year of the Jewish calendar, but of the Gregorian calendar. The last of the fall feast starts on Friday, will last for 7 days. This is an incredible moment in biblical history. And so it doesn't shock me at all with these prophecies and Satan knowing that when that temple's built, his time is just about over. I mean, according to Dr. Irvin Baxter, there's going to be a peace deal signed, and they're going to build the temple, and there's only 7 years left. That's what he believed. And the coming of Jesus is imminent. Well, they're meeting right now, the Saudi Arabians, the Jews, and others involved, the United States, the European Union, the Vatican, the British Empire. They're all involved, and the Arab League of Nations are all working to try to put together a peace deal which would expand the Abraham Accords from 7 nations that are there now to maybe 7 more. If Saudi Arabia gets in, there's 6 more nations saying they'll join it also if Saudi Arabia does. And today, as I'm talking to you, they're at the table in Saudi Arabia with Jews, and Saudi Arabia is in Israel with Palestinians. And they're discussing how to make all of this work that will fulfill these very scriptures. And you know the devil knows that's about to happen, so he's trying to kill these 2 guys and anybody else that would stand in the way of Satan being the god of this world. Remember, Adolf Hitler said it, that he was going to build a kingdom that would last 1,000 years. That was what Nazi Germany and the Third Reich was going to do. Well, you have to understand, he was a mouthpiece, a baby Antichrist, a precursor to the one that's coming. And now Israel's a nation, and Israel's been a nation for 75 years, and we're at the brink of the greatest biblical landmark, the one that Jesus said, when you see the abomination. In other words, Jesus said, when you see the temple built, and then they go in, and then they commit the abomination of desolation, man, you better flee. He told the Jews, you better get out of Dodge, because they're about to slaughter you. You better don't even go down into your house and get your stuff. You pray that this isn't the Sabbath day. Pray that it's not the winter time. Have mercy on the pregnant women and those that are nursing small children, because it's going to be a time like the world has never seen before, nor ever again. This is the prophetic words of the Lord. Tonight, we'll be talking to Mike from around the world about this subject, about the mega tsunami. Oh, and by the way, I did the video on the mega tsunami that hit Greenland and the smaller tsunami that hit South Africa. The news media, the mainstream media, did not cover them, but there was some coverage by different groups, and there's even pictures of where stuff was thrown everywhere. And so what I did, I went back to that video and I gave you all the links. I think there's 4 links or 5 links. I put them all in. So if you scroll down, you'll find it. There's all the links that shows you, and this is it. It's unbelievable that this was not a mainstream story. How could a 30-foot tsunami hit South Africa and kill 5 people, kill 2 on land, and 3 Navy sailors that were up on top a submarine and wiped them off, killed 5 people and injured 7 down in South Africa? And how can a 328-foot tsunami smash into Greenland, doing some extensive damage to some of the area, but nobody was there because this is the off season? Thank God. How can these 2 things happen without an earthquake that we know of, without an asteroid impact, although we must have had something? Was it a Russian torpedo that they exploded? Was it an underwater volcano? Was it a couple small asteroids? Was it an earthquake that was not put down by the U.S. Geological Survey? How in the world do these 2 events happen? And Mike told us that water events are coming. He also told us that asteroid impacts are coming. Guys, so, and I got some criticism because people immediately went to Googling and they couldn't find anything on it, couldn't find anything from the mainstream saying, well, Begley's just nuts because there's nothing out here. I told you there was nothing out there. I told you that mainstream media ignores this, and there's a reason they're ignoring this. There is a definite reason they don't want you to know. What is it they don't want you to know? Well, that's what we're going to ask Mike tonight, and a whole lot more. So go back and watch that video I did, and scroll down in the comments. I posted it. There was people saying, there's no links. There was a few people that got belligerent at me. I had to even just remove their comments. But then I went back and said, okay, I'm going to go get the links that I had, and I'm going to post them in there for them so that they can see them. So go over there, go read them, go click on them, go watch it, go read that stuff yourself, go watch the video that explains it very well as well. And as well as the articles that were written, but all the articles were written by just like science people who wanted to let it be known it happened. But the mainstream media did not pick it up. None of them did. Not even Drudge. None of them. What are they scared of? Maybe, why are they trying to kill these 2 guys? What are they scared of? Maybe everybody's afraid of the coming of Jesus Christ, except us, the believers. We're not afraid. Why should we be afraid? We love the Lord. We know who he is, and we know he's coming back, and he's coming after those that are ready, those that are washed in the blood, those that have been saved, those that have been born again. We have nothing to fear, because greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. The Lord hasn't given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. Are you serious? Washed in the blood. Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing power? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in his grace this hour? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood? in the soul-cleansing blood of the Lamb. Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Oh, yes! Are you walking daily by the Savior's side? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Do you rest each moment in the crucified? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Or are you washed in the blood, in the soul-cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? And be washed in the blood of the Lamb. Come on! When the bridegroom cometh, will your robes be white? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Will your soul be ready for those mansions bright and be washed in the blood of the Lamb? Somebody shout! Or are you washed in the blood, in the soul-cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Now lay aside those garments that are stained with sin and be washed in the blood of the Lamb. There's a fountain flowing for the soul unclean. Oh, be washed in the blood of the Lamb. Are you washed in the blood, in the soul-cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Glory! Are you serious? We're very serious, guys. Don't miss tonight with Mike from around the world. We'll be starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you guys later tonight, right here on the coming Apocalypse.